Good evening. I'm political editor Dennis Welch, and this is Politics Unplugged. And joining us tonight is Speaker of the Arizona House of Representatives, David Gowan. And I want to thank you for joining us today. And we're going to spend a lot of time looking forward to the session, to politics in 2016. But before we do that, I want to ask you, looking back here on 2015, what was the biggest accomplishment by you, the legislature, that isn't balancing the budget?
Well, certainly, as you know, normally we do 100 days in session, and we were able to do that 81 days, as most people talk about it. They say it's before the moon landing is when last time we did this. So getting out of there definitely is a good time. If you can get out of there earlier, it's a better time because we're not making the laws.
I was going to say, for a lot of people, I hear a lot of politicians, a lot of lawmakers down there always make a big deal of that, but I think to the average person on the street, they're like, who cares if it's 100 days, it's 80 days, it's 150 days? Why is that such a big deal?
Well, again, as I stated just a little bit ago, it's about when you're looking at time frames, it's what costs the state for us to be in session, as well as if we're there longer, we could be making more laws and putting them through. And, you know, that touches a lot of what we do in this state.
All right, now let's move on and let's start looking forward. Now, you guys are going to be dealing with an issue that not a lot of legislators have had to deal with in the past. I'm talking a little bit about terrorism in the wake of those Paris attacks in San Bernardino. Now, let's start with the question of these refugees. Now, Governor Doug Ducey has said that he doesn't want to let refugees into the country following those Paris attacks, but experts say they really cannot stop refugees. Are there going to be any actions taken by this legislature to try to stop this influx of refugees that may be coming here?
Well, certainly that's a good question. And as we go into the session coming up, we will get with, I've had great partnership with the governor and the Senate President, Andy Biggs. We've had a great partnership, and certainly that'll be a topic that comes up. We'll start discussing. And as you know, we were talking about sausage being made a little earlier, and it really depends on how the flow goes. But it's on the top of our minds. We see what's happening around Paris, San Bernardino.
Any ideas kicked around out there? Any avenues that you guys can look at? Because I mean, this is a federal issue, and for the states, I mean, the governor can use the bully pulpit, the state can use the bully pulpit, and kind of go after the federal government on that. But ultimately, there's not a lot of things the state can do. Correct?
Well, certainly. What we're here for when we come together is training our thought and the ideas that we have all throughout the state, bringing them forth together and brainstorming those issues. So that's the part I look forward to getting to on this issue, is brainstorming that and seeing what ideas come about. As you know, with 30 different districts across the state, we all have different various opinions for the communities we bring in. And looking at it in that manner, we're able to listen to each other and brainstorm off of that. But as I stated, with the partnerships I've had with the governor and the Senate president, certainly it is an issue that we'll be taking up and looking at.
And another issue that really comes in the wake of all this stuff, it really puts gun issues, you know, back in the spotlight. Now, you're a veteran of Arizona politics. Guns always a big issue here. But recently, Governor Daniel Malloy of Connecticut said he would sign an executive order that would ban people on the federal terrorism watch list from purchasing a gun. This seems like a pretty reasonable idea for people out there who are concerned about terrorism and terrorists getting their hands on guns. Any thought about doing something like that at the legislature?
Well, I'd be interested to see what he's talking about on the ban. Certainly here, Arizona is the freest state when it comes to our Second Amendment rights, and we take pride in that. And because of that, we're able to defend ourselves from any harm that occurs from any occurrence out there that could be violent to us, I guess we'd say. But the point here is, in our state, and you hear what happened in California over there in San Bernardino, and you heard what the governor stated over there from California, Jerry Brown, about backdooring terrorists coming through and picking up guns from Nevada and Arizona.
Not a popular comment here in the state of Arizona.
It's not a popular comment because the terrorists got the guns in San Diego. They didn't get them from Arizona or Nevada.
And Arizona has, I mean, California has much stricter gun laws than Arizona. But the key question here is, should somebody on a terrorist watch list be able to go in and buy a gun in Arizona?
Well, you'd have to to give me the reasons for what they're on there for, I guess, or the validity of what it is. If a terrorist should not, no.
Sure.
You know, cartelmen should not.
What about somebody on the no-fly list?
Felons, we know can't. Those certain areas.
Sure.
You know, what I've heard out there on the no-fly list, I think it comes down to a minute minority that is on that call list. But that's something at the state level where we have our freedoms down here and we express those out. I don't know, because you were talking about at the federal side how maybe we can't do certain things. This certainly, you're talking about with a terrorist point, is a federal issue. Should they? You know, anybody that can be perceivably be a terrorist, I mean, we have to keep our eye on them, and we certainly don't need them in our nation to harm our people.
Well, it certainly sounds like, is it fair to say that there's going to be no legislation then to restrict any access to guns in any form, is what it sounds like?
Yeah, I think reason why we're free in this state with the #1 gun state in the nation, I think you'll see us continue down the land of freedom, the path of freedom, I should say, to be the land of freedom.
All right. Now, I want to get into another issue here. Is like after the attacks in San Bernardino, now Maricopa County Sheriff Joe Arpaio said police alone really can't stop these terrorist situations, and saying citizens also have to shoulder some of the responsibility. Now, that was something echoed just last week by Pinell County Sheriff Paul Babieu.
There's 250,000 concealed carry permits out there in Arizona. I guarantee those people feel safe. They have a greater measure of safety and comfort for them and the safety of their families, for their home. And you know what? Bad guys, criminals, are worried most about them.
Now, coincidentally, I believe that you're going to be running against Mr. Babieu for Congress here. But what about this sentiment
Certainly
echoed?
I look at the other way. He's running against me.
Sure, and we'll get into more of that a little bit later. But certainly, you know, you've got Sheriff Joe Arpaio, and now you've got Sheriff Paul Babieu saying that, you know, encouraging armed citizens to be vigilant and to take action if they see anything going down. I've talked to a lot of law enforcement officials that say this is the last thing we want to do. We don't want untrained armed citizens taking justice and the law into their own hands. Where are you on this issue?
Well, you know, again, we're getting back to the gun issue in Arizona. Why are we the strongest state in the union when it comes to our Second Amendment rights? Because this state believes in the values that our founding fathers put forth. And certainly when you talk about #2 in the amendments, we hold that high, just as we do 1 and all the other parts of our Constitution. We don't dissect it and say this one's less than the other. The reality in our state is, because of the legislature that I've been a part of, constitutional carry has passed. With constitutional carry, we don't need a concealed weapons permit to carry. We can carry it concealed, or we can carry it open without a permit. The purpose of that is we keep ourselves free, and we can keep ourselves from harm from anybody coming to do harm to us or our family, to our friends. That's the whole purpose of that. And now we have people out there to protect others. And when you're talking about the right to hold those, I think it scares off the violent criminals from attacking us here. It does. I don't know if you have a gun, if I'm a criminal. So why would I want to attack you? I want to attack the guys that I think are going to be weaker. That's the mental thought, because I teach martial arts, and in fact, out of the martial arts, that's the theory. If you hold your head up high and you walk strongly, you don't have to use your martial arts. So the point here is, because we have these gun laws here that make us free, and we're able to carry without a permit, the same concept as I teach as a martial artist is, hey, maybe this guy has something, and I don't want to mess with him.
Well, I did not know that you were a student of the martial arts, so I learned something new here every day. Let's get on to another issue here, and let's talk a little bit local control. One issue is you took some local control away from cities to deal with confiscated weapons. Another issue out there, per se, is the plastic bag issue, where you enacted legislation that no local government can pass any type of ordinance forcing people to get rid of their plastic bags at the stores or whatnot. What does that say about this legislature? It seems like this is a pretty heavy-handed legislature.
Well, it's interesting you put it that way when we're actually freeing up the businesses to use whatever bags they want.
Fleeing by force, though? I mean, shouldn't local control be left to the locals?
Well, what's interesting is that you bring up, let's talk the Founding Fathers and what they wanted. Local control and local government is the state. That's what the founders put forth. It was meant for us to send our representatives to the legislature and do the laws that we intended. And when you have some cities or counties in efforts of controlling and banning free products, then the state needs to step up and step in so we can keep them free. The point here is you got a business that says, I'd like to use paper bags, and the city says no. They started going, I meant plastic bags, I'm sorry, I flip-flopped it. You know why I flip-flopped it? Because it used to be paper bags, and the same people wanted to go to plastic, and now they don't like plastic, so they want to go back to those old areas. But the point here is, when you have a government in a city or county that's overbearing to your freedoms and to your liberties, then the state can step in and make sure that those are guaranteed.
All right, we're going to have to take a break here. That's all the time we have in this segment, but we'll be right back because we have lots more coming up on Politics Unplugged. Up next, we are going to take a closer look at education. Lawmakers did come up with a funding plan this year that will be sent to Arizona voters. But is that the end of the story? And are more tax cuts in the pipeline? And if so, who will benefit? More with House Speaker David Gowan still ahead.
On the next Dr. Bill, a mother and daughter.
I do drugs because I can't stand my mom.
She says you stalk her.
Out of control.
Did you chase her through the neighborhood?
Monday at 3 on 3TV. You want to know what's going on, and you want to know now. You need the 3TV News app. Be the first to know with breaking news alerts, and you'll always have the forecast in the palm of your hand. The 3TV News app. Download it on your iPhone or Android today.
You'll never forget your first car, and you'll never forget your first car wreck. No car, medical bills, can't work, in a wreck, need a check, make one call, that's all.
Murder and rope is the way to go. Call 977-1900.
Foster Farms presents Amazing Chicken. Foster Farms